Qatar Airways today is one of the world's most recognized airlines, with its service and passenger experience seemingly winning awards on a regular basis. We have to imagine that the bold and blunt statements of the carrier's previous CEO, both positive and negative, raised its overall profile as well. The airline now flies to around 200 destinations from its hub at Doha Hamad International Airport and operates a fleet of some 230 aircraft, a mix of wide-bodies and narrow-bodies. Recently, this Gulf carrier cancelled its order for 25 Boeing 737 MAX 10s, signalling that it will order Airbus aircraft instead to build its narrow-body fleet. In this video, we take a closer look at this recent decision to end the narrow-body deal with Boeing, as well as what the carrier's future fleet might look like. Qatar Airways previously had 25 Boeing 737 MAX 10s on order, the largest variant of the 737 MAX series. The original order was made in 2022 at the Farnborough Air Show, with Boeing Commercial Airplanes president and CEO at the time, Stan Deal, describing the aircraft as being ideally suited for Qatar Airways' regional network. Unfortunately, however, the Boeing 737 MAX 10 has been plagued by certification issues, resulting in delays in delivery for airlines that have the aircraft on order. The jet is now expected to enter commercial service in 2026 at the earliest. As a result of such delays, carriers across the world have had to adjust their operations while seeking alternatives. Among the airlines awaiting delivery of the MAX 10 are the big three US carriers, United Airlines, American Airlines, and Delta Airlines. The delays in entering service, however, are likely not the main reason for Qatar Airways cancelling its order. Let's be frank, the major Boeing deals inked during Qatar Airways' A350 surface degradation dispute with Airbus were at least partially symbolic, the carrier's way of showing the European plane maker that it didn't need to rely on its aircraft. The deals were also practical, as the carrier was essentially shut out of buying Airbus aircraft for a short time. Indeed, deals that were signed with Boeing came at a time when relations between Airbus and Qatar Airways were at their worst, with Airbus making the unprecedented move of cancelling/revoking the carrier's orders. Around the same time, the carrier was demanding $600 million in damages from Airbus due to the surface degradation issues. Prior to the blowout, the airline's CEO at the time, Akbar al-Bakr, said that he would be delighted to be the launch customer for the A350 freighter. But then, about a year later, amid the dispute, he placed a major order with Boeing as the launch customer for the 777-8F. With the airline's A321neo order revoked, the 737 MAX 10 was the next best thing. However, relations eventually thawed, and in early 2023 orders were reinstated, with the following statement made at the time. Qatar Airways and Airbus are pleased to have reached an amicable and mutually agreeable settlement in relation to their legal dispute over A350 surface degradation and the grounding of A350 aircraft. A repair project is now underway, and both parties look forward to getting these aircraft safely back in the air. With the Airbus orders reinstated, Qatar Airways found itself in a bit of a dilemma. Should it hold on to the A321neo and 737 MAX 10 orders and operate a mixed narrow-body fleet? Considering it never truly wanted the MAX 10 in the first place, having so many stretched narrow-bodies for its regional operations would have been unnecessary. Qatar Airways does operate, or did operate, the 737 MAX 8. These jets were originally ordered by Russian carriers and suddenly made undeliverable due to sanctions after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Sure, the airline probably got a great deal on the jets, but looking at how the airline currently uses them, you can tell it doesn't see a long-term future for them either. According to Planespotters.net, essentially all of the 737s have been leased to Indian budget airline Indigo. The one active aircraft that isn't listed as being leased still appears to be flying exclusively between Doha and cities in India. Two others haven't flown for a few weeks now. The confirmation of Qatar Airways' MAX 10 order cancellation likely came as part of a substantial wide-body order placed by the airline with the US manufacturer. After all, such bad news is easier to absorb when it's eclipsed by a much larger order. In May 2025, the carrier committed to purchasing 130 787s and 30 777Xs in a deal believed to be worth more than $96 billion. So, whether you call the MAX 10 deal a cancellation or a swap, the airline is still doing business with Boeing, just not when it comes to narrowbody aircraft. As mentioned earlier, Qatar Airways has 50 Airbus A321neos on order. The carrier is due to begin receiving these aircraft in 2026. However, it is now more likely than ever that the carrier will look to increase its order for Airbus narrowbody aircraft. Qatar Airways CEO Badr Al-Mir, reacting to a question about business with Airbus, recently said, "It doesn't mean that Airbus is out of the game. Our narrowbody fleet will continue to be Airbus. We are receiving 50 A321neos starting next year. So our whole narrowbody fleet will be basically operated by Airbus. We continue to receive A350-1000s and there will always be a chance for another order from Airbus." Qatar Airways' likely order for more Airbus narrowbody aircraft is another sign of improving relations between the carrier and the European manufacturer. As it stands, Qatar Airways has a limited narrowbody fleet made up of 27 Airbus A320s and 3 Boeing 737 MAX 8s. Again, the 737s aren't really being used in the airline's current operations, despite technically being part of the fleet. As the airline's narrowbody fleet was historically Airbus, it looks like it wants to continue with this setup into the future. After all, its narrowbody operations pale in comparison with its long-haul wide-body services. With so many wide-bodies in the fleet, it makes sense for the airline to operate jets from both Boeing and Airbus. But on the regional/short-haul/narrowbody side of things, it just doesn't make sense to introduce such diversity when it's not necessary. The bottom line is that Qatar Airways is switching back to Airbus for its short-haul strategy because that's what it had wanted from the beginning. The surface degradation dispute with Airbus was a notable detour in the carrier's fleet strategy, which forced it to look to the plane maker's chief rival, Boeing, to fulfill its future narrowbody needs. But now that relations have been repaired with Airbus, with a new CEO leading the airline, Qatar Airways can shift back to exclusively operating Airbus jets for its narrowbody fleet. This has the added advantage of offering a little more certainty in the short term, particularly since Boeing, at least at the time of making this video, has yet to get the MAX 10 certified by aviation regulators. What do you think about Qatar Airways' shifting fleet strategy? Do you think it could have benefited from operating both the A321neo and the 737 MAX 10? Let us know your thoughts by leaving a comment. In addition to our daily YouTube videos, Simple Flying publishes over 150 articles and a podcast every week. Visit simpleflying.com.